Hi, Hitesh here from the future. Before I begin the intro and show you the project, which is really fun, just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I really need your support. So please, a comment just saying thanks, heart, a cup of tea, whatever you want to send in the comment section. It's really important for me. Another thing is this is one of a kind of unique tutorial. This is not designed or addressed to be the absolute freshers of coding. This is a tutorial which is meant for mid-size engineer to the high-end engineers who has actually seen production grade application and want to enhance their knowledge with modern things like fan out architecture, how you can replace your Kafka infrastructure with the ingest, and whole lot discussion about AI inferencing and AI calls. This whole tutorial is not writing a lot of Tailwind CSS files. This is a tutorial where we have a lot of chapter wise files as well as a final project walkthrough, just like how it is being given in the industries. You don't walk or through from the project with a scratch, but you understand the whole code base just like you do in the open source world and open source contribution. So just want to mention that this is a pretty high-end tutorial, and walking through with this tutorial will give you immense amount of knowledge, but focus more on understanding the concept rather than just writing along with me. You will have all the code files and the final project. Just make sure I just wanted to make sure I address the correct target audience of this entire tutorial. And you will have so much fun on this complete course on Ingest along with the mega project and the AI part of it. So much fun. And again, handing it over back to past myself because this tutorial took me weeks to record. Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and I make coding videos, and in this video we are going to have a very special and fun ride. In this video I will walk you through how to build modern softwares, and we're going to discuss from medium level engineers to high level engineers that in the age and the world of AI, how to look forward to build modern applications and modern software. The bigger question is, what do you really mean by building modern softwares? The modern software is actually equipped with AI calls, and you are calling to one or the another LLM. And when you make a call to any kind of LLM, there are so many things that goes wrong. Sometimes the response doesn't comes, sometimes the response comes after a few minutes even, and there's so much more that can happen with that. Sometimes calls just fails and you need a really strong retries on that, and you need to build pipelines on the softwares. This is all really new and you need to learn about them. So I realized that I should address this and create a whole long series of videos, or you can just say a really long video, to address this problem and walk you through with each and every depth of understanding of how to build these softwares. So consider this as a really in-depth course on Ingest itself, which is one of the pioneer leader in building these kinds of software. So what will happen? What we're going to build by the end of this video. By the end of this video, I will walk you through with a code base which is professionally written and includes all the nuances what usually you face. So we're going to build this software, and this one is actually in the light mode, so don't get me on that part, but you can definitely turn that into dark mode as well. So this is a dev query forum, and this is a place where you can just simply go ahead and ask any question that you like. Now, what you see in this software is these kinds of tags. Now, I haven't given these tags. These tags are actually being taken up from a query to LLM, and LLM gave me these tags based on the question. Not only that, you can see we have this AI answer. So AI is actually answering the question. The devs can also answer the question, but AI is going to answer this question. And this is how it looks like. I simply asked how to use interface in TypeScript. That is it. This is my question title, and this is what I gave as a question. Now, these all tags are coming up from an AI response. So this means this response is relatively faster because this actually lives in its own workflow. And this takes my question and give it to the LLM, and LLM quickly can give me these tags. But AI also gives me, or the LLM also give me this long answer. And look at this answer. This answer is pretty long. So it definitely took some time to generate this. And the streaming response that came up from the LLM call is obviously going to take much more time. So we need to work on how these things actually works and how an entire AI ecosystem works. Not only that, what you can see, we have the capability to upload images. So what actually happens, user actually can give me the photos of their errors in this entire dev query forum, and AI also reads the images and then answers or craft an answer based on that. So you can see this is a fairly complex project to work on with this. Of course, we have the questions whole list and search and all those these things working, but these are just the CRUD operation, which I'm pretty sure any medium level engineers can actually nail it down. Where it goes is how these things are actually taken up care, and especially when things goes wrong. For this, what you're going to notice, we actually have tools like Inngest, which gives you the entire runs and workflows. But the problem is nobody really knows how and what to work with them. So my goal with this entire series or the video, the long video, is to take you onto the journey of the Inngest, which is an open source project here. You can just go ahead and start them as well. And just learn about Inngest, what they offer, what they all can do, all these diagrams, what they do, how they make sense. So consider this series as a whole walkthrough and even a complete course on Inngest so that you can be really friendly with the Inngest, everything that they have to offer. And by the end of this whole discussion about the each steps of Inngest that they take, we will have a discussion on a really large code base, that how to build these and how Inngest can actually help this. So officially you can call this as from my side a complete course on Inngest, where we are going to see what powers Inngest bring to your code base and how you can utilize them. That's my goal, to make you absolutely friendly with Inngest so that you can make any kind of application using the superpower of Inngest. That's all. That's all what I want to do. So let's move on to the next video. And from the very next video, I will walk you through with from the absolute scratch how to start with the Inngest, and then later on move forward as we will slowly introduce the complexity to our application and to our code base. That is it for this video. Let's go ahead and catch up in the next one. All right, hey there and welcome to the chapter 1. This whole video is divided into a variety of chapters. This is chapter 1 and each chapter is going to teach you a little bit more about the Inngest, and towards the very end we are going to discuss about the major project that I just showed you. So without further ado, let me take you onto the screen, and how we are going to walk through with this is I'll be going through with these code bases and I'll be dividing each one of them with some chapters. So I'll call this one as chapter 01 and so on. We'll be going with the more chapters. I'll right click and open an integrated terminal here. And the first obvious thing that I'll do is npm init, I can write that, init-y. That is going to initialize a basic project inside the chapter 1. I'll still keep it as it is. This is the basic. We don't have anything. We have this type as, it should be module. If you are giving me by default type, why can't you give me module? Anyways, so we'll be hanging around a little bit with our package.json and this whole chapter, as well as I'll be walking you through with some of the, this is my drawing board. This is where I explain the stuff, I walk through with the stuff. Consider this as my digital notebook or a diagram place. All right. So we are here to discuss about Inngest. And the first thing that we should all know about, apart from the documentation, is Inngest is pretty nice. And there's a lot in their documentation that they go through. By the way, they have a full compatibility with Next.js, Node.js, and Python, the three major ones that people usually use. But what's the problem that Inngest is trying to solve? Let me walk you through. So when you create any complex application, there are a couple of things that you do. For example, you might want to send email after user sign up, and sometimes sign up is even a complex. You're using some third-party services for sign up, maybe an SSO, maybe an clerk, which is totally independent of your database itself. So maybe you want to sign up with that, and maybe there is a case where you process the payments, and once you process the payment, you obviously want to update the inventory. Very common scenario, happens quite often. Maybe you want to generate some reports on a regular basis. That can be every Monday, every first of the month, or maybe something else as well. Another thing that you usually do in your application is handle webhooks. There are so many webhooks, like payment services, sometimes from Stripe, or maybe any kind of third-party application. Any kind of third party. So any webhook that you're handling, which is giving you more information, maybe you want to react on that. And most importantly, you want to retry some of the stuff. Now, what stuff? There are lots of failed operations in our application that we come to know eventually by the logs or through some other ways, but we really want to retry them. And this is the common scenario or the common set of operation that every developer needs to do in any decent kind of complex application. Now, what you do with that? What's the solution of handling all of this? Of course, writing just controller is never the solution. You want to do some kind of message queue system. Now, for this message queue system, you use a variety of things. Maybe use a RabbitMQ. Maybe in the complex one, you want to use SQS, a service from the Amazon itself, or maybe you want to use something like Kafka. That's the first thing that comes to the mind. You also want to manage your worker processes. So sometimes there are special dedicated servers which are being up and running just to manage these workers. And also sometimes people manage the state of the each process. So sometimes there is a state management databases as well, which keeps the log of what processes failed, what processes executed successfully, and all of that. You also want to work on retry logic into each of the tasks that is being designed. And how can we forget a cron job? Or even sometimes there are dedicated servers which just handles the cron jobs. That is it. And also, how can I forget the monitoring and logging as well? So these are the things which are there to make sure that all the applications that we are doing are actually performing nicely and easily. And where does the ingest come into this picture? Ingest actually directly provides you all of this, and you don't have to manage any dedicated server for your cron jobs, for your monitoring, for your messaging queue, for your worker processes. And that's why ingest actually works. If you look at the homepage of the ingest, that's exactly they say that it can scale and all these things. But if you go a little bit here, just somewhere here. So if I can find that. So this is what they actually mention, the steps and run. And don't worry, we'll go through with each one of them. Now, first bit I want to walk you through is the docs. So notice what they say is Ingest is an event-driven, durable execution platform that allows you to run fast, reliable code on any platform without managing queue infra or the state. Just like we discussed, we don't want to manage our queue infrastructure or the state management thing or the monitoring thing. This all is provided by the Ingest. But how does Ingest actually provides you that? That's a big question. So the first thing that comes into the picture for the ingest is the events. What are the events? Events are JSON payloads that trigger functions. So how does the event actually looks like? Let me walk you through. The event looks like something like this. We have these curly braces. It's an object. So the first thing that goes around is the name in each object. And there is a way how you define the name of each object. For example, we call this one as user. Then we simply go ahead and say sign up and then say complete. So I will walk you through later on that how they actually name them. There's a special way mentioned in the documentation, how you name each one of your event. Once you have named your event, then you go ahead and provide the data for the event. Now data can be anything. It's a big complex object. Feel free to add whatever you like to add in your data segment. For example, you can just provide a user ID. Maybe that's 123 or any string in this case. It would be better to call this one as state. I can write better in a code editor, but I'll try my best. And apart from user ID, maybe you want to provide an email. Let's just say that's Hitesh@example.com. And maybe one more. There's a plan also included. So you are buying a plan, maybe pro plan on your application or anything like that. So this is the most basic event that are available in the ingest. Don't worry, we'll write each one of them in the code file as well. But just want to make sure that you're aware of these things. So event is one of the things. Event usually just has a unique name so that it can be identified. This is a user sign up completed, sign up aborted, a purchase plan aborted, or the purchase that's being made. Next big thing that comes up in the ingest are functions. And functions are just TypeScript or JavaScript functions that runs in response to this event. So whatever this event happens, these are the functions that are going to run in response to the event. And there's third most important thing in the entire ingest family, which is steps. Steps are the most basic thing, and steps are the building blocks or of the durable workflows. Each step can automatically retry on failure. It can also save the output so that it doesn't rerun automatically, and it enables the workflow so that the workflow can run in days, in weeks, any cron job, any cron job. That's what I want to say. So these are the basic, and This is the foundation of how an event-driven architecture. And one most important thing about the ingest is they can behave in a very different manner. Like if you want to have a fan out architecture or a fan in architecture, they can support everything. It's all about how you write your code. That's what they all say. So these are the basics. Now that you know about the ingest, we are going to go ahead and work on with the ingest. For that, we'll be referring the documentation again, because that's the best part. And uh, there's so much things that they mention that, hey, go ahead and watch this. I think starting your project is okay. We will start the project. We don't need to worry. Let me zoom this a little bit. I know this is too little. So install the ingest is same, npm install ingest. So let's go ahead and copy this. I will walk through a little bit more. I'll change this package.json file in a minute. But right now, let's just go ahead and install this. So paste this, npm install ingest. That's all it takes. All right. And after that, they also mentioned that you can install the ingest CLI either globally or you can use npx to run the ingest CLI latest at the dev. And that's going to just run this. You can also pass on the option of -u to run it on some APIs, endpoints, and all of that. We will do that, but not right now. We right now just want to work with absolute basics of how these things are done. So let me walk you through how to properly configure our package.json file. We will not do that in each chapter, but I just want to make sure that how I will keep it in the entirety of chapter. In later on, we're going to just copy paste them. So for the name, I'll keep the name of each of the chapter as like this. So this is going to be chapter -01. For the following chapters, I'll keep it as 02 and something like that. I'll keep the one description. I will add the chapter description as well. So this is going to be chapter 1, and that's going to be introduction to ingest and setup. This is not really compulsory, but we'll do it. And all of our project are going to be kept inside the source and then index, and I'll keep it as TS, will not go with the JS. By the way, these are all the same. Now in the script, we will have some of the different script. The first one is going to be dev script. And for the dev script, we just want to run this. So we'll run everything by tsx and we'll say watch. In the watch mode, we'll say source index.ts. Cool, that's good enough. And we'll have two more script after that. The next one is going to be start to run the production server or anything like that. In this, we'll just remove the watch mode. And the last one is going to be ingest. And here's the important thing. Whenever you run your web application server, you also need to run your ingest server as well. How do we run the ingest server? The same command that we saw just right now, npx ingest -cli @ latest. So we'll go with the latest one and then run the dev server. So this is how we just run that. And pretty basic, nothing big deal of in this case. Now in the dependencies, we are using the ingest with the anything above 3.46, that's fine, but we'll need a couple of dev dependencies as well. So let's go ahead and install them here. But again, feel free to just, you need to install that actually. So npm install -d for the dev dependency. First of all, tsx is required and TypeScript is required. And then since we'll be using TS, we'll be getting the types as well. So let's get the types for a node. And that's all it is required. I think it's going to install the latest cutting edge one. I usually not sure about the 24 version of it. This is fine. This is fine. So we'll keep it. Usually when I prepared the exercise file, it was 5.4. When I prepared the exercise file, this was 4.15. But I think it's not major breaking changes, so I'll just keep it fine. All right. So that's the part one, how you arrange your basic node file. Now let's go ahead and follow this. So inside the chapter one, we'll create a new folder, src. And for each of the chapter, we're going to create the fresh one, but I'll just walk you through with how we have done this. I'll do that only one, but for the next one, you can just copy paste that. So index.ts. So how does the ingest work? In this particular first chapter, we'll not run it. We'll just learn how to write the first ingest. So if you just scroll this is where they mention that create a file in the directory and all of that. And this is what they mention. I will walk you through how this is being done. All right. So go ahead and follow along. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to bring in ingest. Ingest looks okay. And that's going to be coming up from ingest. And this is exactly same as they mention up here. All right, good enough. Now, once you have imported the ingest, the first step is to create a client, and you can create as many clients as you wish, and each of the setup of the workflow can have one IDs in itself. What does that mean? Let me show you. I'll create an ingest client object from this class ingest. Oh, my bad. Ingest. There we go. And whenever you are creating an object, the only thing that is required is to pass on an ID. This ID is used in the interface of ingest to mark it as unique. So make sure you get this unique, but you don't need to keep it too unique so that you want to use UUID or something. Just name it something better. In this case, I'll just go ahead and say hello world app. That's good enough. All right, I don't think this is too much of a thing. So this is the step one, create a unique identity so that we can uniquely identify your application. I will walk you through more on that, don't you worry. After that, you create a function. So for example, I'll just go ahead and create a simple hello function. The very first function, and in fact, everything in the ingest is created by this object. If you put up a dot, you can see all the things mentioned up here. API-based URL version and so many things. The one that we are interested in is this create function. This create function takes couple of parameters, and you can see this. There's an ID, ingest middleware, doesn't do a good job in this small window in suggestion, but I'll do a better one. So what I'll do is there are set of objects just like this, first object, second object, and all of that. This is how the configuration is written. The first one is ID. Each function gets a unique ID in itself, and it should make sense. In this case, hello world makes sense. So I'll just go ahead and say hello dash world. That's my unique ID to identify this function. Once I've done this, then is the event. This means what event should trigger this function. I repeat, what event should trigger this function? So I'll go ahead and say event. And there is a way how you name the event. Like in this case, it's just a test and hello. But there is a mechanism I will walk you through in the later on chapters that this is how it's being done. Now, once this is done, the two main properties, after that you write your execution part of it. And this is also known as handler. So I'll go ahead and say this is my async. And this is the handler that is going to handle this. A simple arrow function just like that. Okay. Why are you having an issue? Async is method requires promise constructor. I'll walk you through with that. No worries on that. So in the async one, you usually take two objects or two variables in account. The first one is event, which event is there, and then there is a step. These are two things which are always kind of required to pass on in any of this one. Now, once I'm inside here, what I'll do is I'll do a couple of console log only. The first one is simply hello from ingest. And then I'll go ahead and say event received. So we can work on in the future. And that's one is event dot, and I'll just use the name of it. There is more properties in this event, but I'll just go with event name and data because these are the two important one for us. So in this case, I'll say event data. All right, seems okay as of now. Okay, what else do we want? We want to return. You can return any JSON serializable value. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and say return. And I want to return an object in which there is a message. That message can say in the backticks, hello. And I can say event.data.name if that's the one. Otherwise, what I can say is I can say simply hello world. I guess there is no problem so far. It seems very basic. And on top of that, I'll add one more data, which is received at, just a property. This one is going to be new date. Nope, not like that. Date. And that will be to ISO string. There we go. I hope there is no problem so far that how this is being done and all the values are being created. So this is the most basic hello world function that you are going to create. How you use that, don't worry, that's in the chapter 2. But this is all what I want to do in this one. I'll walk you through how to run this one as well so that we can work on this one. Now, once this is all done, what I want to show you is there is also a console log outside of this in which I'll just go ahead and say, let's use this one. And I'll use a tick so that it's easy to find. I'll say function created. And how the function created, for that we can actually find. So what ingest actually does, ingest take all of your function and create them in the ingest itself. And those function don't yet run. There is an event which triggers those function and then they run. Got it? Pretty easy. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and say, hey, ingest, and not ingest actually, this hello world, by the time it reaches here, all the functions actually gets an ID and you can go ahead and print that ID as well. So pretty interesting, isn't it? That you can create a file in a standalone function and there is a this whole manager just like ingest, and it actually takes all the function and work with that. Now there is another way of creating a function. I still want to walk you through with that. These are known as multi-step function. And in the very first class, you really want to know how all the ways to create the function. All right. So let me just walk you through with that. I hope this is all okay. There is no problem in this one. If you have, just write in the comment section. I'll definitely try to fix them. Okay. The next one is multi-step function. So how do you create a multi-step function? It's actually same. You call the ingest and call the create function for that also. And there you provide the object IDs, or in the function you create, you provide the objects. So first one is ID. It should be unique. So this one is multi-step demo. Multi-step demo. Okay, cool enough. The next thing that you provide is the event. Event is required in each one of them. In this one, it's a demo of multi-step. And then you create your handler. So you can see there is a synchronization and there is a familiarity that, okay, I have to do this every single time. Yes, you have to do this every single time. So I'll call this one as async, same like that. There we go. And in here you take two of the values. The first one is event and then the second one is step. Notice here how we created the hello world function. We did the same event and step. We didn't talk about the step there. We just talk about event. In this one, let's talk about how the steps are being done. Okay, so what you do is, this is my step one where you can mention the first task. It can be any task. You can connect with database, whatever you want to do. It can be any task at all. And let's hold this result 1. Okay. First of all, I'll use an await syntax, and now step actually provides you this step, whichever you have taken up here. It provides you so many of the things that you can do with that. Notice here, there is a default AI, there is a fetch, there is an invoke, there is a run, send, so many things that you can work with this here. I'll say I just want to run something. That means I want to do something. Now, whenever you want to run, there's a ID of that sub function or the step to run. I'll call this one as step 1. Feel free to call it as user created, email send, notification send, whatever you want to do. And the second one is your classic callback. I'll call this one as async, just like this. And there we go. Now in here, I will just say console log, very basic. That will say executing step 1 with a dot dot dot. Of course, makes sense. And once I'm done with this, I have to return something. And what most importantly you return is in this format, data. Now in the data, you can return whatever you like. I'll just return a string, but feel free to return an array or an object, whatever you wish to have. I'll call this one as result from step 1. Makes sense? All right, so this is the part 1 where you go and work with the result. And probably at this step, this is where our step 1 is complete. So I'll log a simple data that says step 1 completed, and we will display the result 1. All right, I hope this part is all clear. The step 1, there is no problem there. Now our step 2 at this point, let's just say this is my step 2, which is wait for some time task. Maybe you want to give some break to the user, whatever you want to do. So our step 2 is sleep for 5 seconds. This is optional, but we'll have that. Again, can we borrow this exact same syntax? Yes, we can. This will save us some time. This one is going to be result 2. And result 2, instead of running this whole step and all of that, what we can do is we can say step dot sleep. Yep, that's the one. And again, same things. You have to provide what it does. So wait bit. And then the second is how much you want to wait. And by the way, you can write a 5-day here, just like this, and it will wait. Or you can write 24-hour, just like this. So this is 24-hour. This is mentioned in their docs, by the way. I'll say 5 seconds. So this one will wait for the 5 second. And we will copy this and paste it up here. And I will say step 2 completed, and we'll just get this. Although we are not getting anything in this one, so I think it doesn't make sense to have this one. So this is our step 2, by the way, and we don't have anything. I'll just mention that the step 2 is complete. All right. Now we have the step 3 here. So this is my step 3, and I'll say in the step 3, there is another task that we want to do. Another task. Cool enough. And what we can do is we can just borrow this, copy this, and paste this. This time this should be technically result 2 now because we didn't store anything in here, so that's okay. And we'll say this one is result 2. Step 3 is complete. What do we want to do in this third step? Let's say we want to call this one as, technically this is step 2. So, all right. So console.log, executing step 2, whatever you want to do in this one. And we are saying result from step 2 is here, but also you also have the access to previous, and I want to take the result 1 here. So here is a very interesting thing that yes, you can actually do this. The data is from the result 2, but you also still have access to the previous one in this step as well. In fact, all the step has the access to previous steps so that you can extract some data out of this. So this is the step all we have. And once we are done with all of this, so this whole thing, the whole async and everything got executed. Now I will say that I want to return something from it. So what I'll do is within this async, so this is my async, I would love to return some data. Okay, now it's up to you. What do you want to return? The moment you write the return, it's all happy. No, it's not yet happy. It should be happy. It should be happy now. Yeah, it's happy now. So it's up to you. What do you want to return? I'll return a couple of things. The first one is the message that says multi-step workflow completed. And once we are here, I would love to respond back with the result. In fact, results would be, and I will send result 1 as well as result 2. So these are the 2 things I'm getting back. And once I'm all done, I'll just go ahead and do a console log, which says multi-step function created. These are not executed yet. These are just created. And just like the previous one we had, we actually have an ID of this one as well. So we'll call this one as multi-step function.id. Each function that you design gets an ID just like this. Now, interestingly, how do we actually run them? And by the way, by the run, I don't mean to execute them. The very first of your introduction of how to execute this one. We have added everything in here, and this is how everything is going to run. So you need actually 2 terminals. And in the chapter 1, I'll open up the integrated terminal. And the first script to run is npm run dev. So this is our dev script. This runs. So notice here, multi-step function created and multi-step function created, multi-step demo and all of that. But there is one more thing. We are not yet done. So right click on this and create a new integrated terminal. And here you want to run npm run ingest. My bad. Ingest. Why is it creating an issue? Npm run ingest. npx ingest CLI should be running up. Ingest package script. Oh, my bad. Looks like I was doing some typo or something. Npm run ingest should be the one. All right. So you can see we have 2 servers up and running. One is just the basic server, how you run for your application. And there's another server that you have to run, which is npm run ingest. This is the ingest server that runs. And the most important part here is to just copy this, go back up here and open up this. This gives you a nice and beautiful dashboard where you have all the things available. Now, right now there is no run. We will definitely run in this one. I can send the test events from here as well, that what do you want to do, but we'll do that from the command line itself. You can see all the events which are run actually gets fetched up here, and you have all the functions up here as well. Now, right now this is empty. This is deliberate because we haven't done anything. That's for the chapter 2. But this is your dev server. This is where you see all the things happening. And in the chapter 2, we'll see that how we fetch some events or send some events through the terminal. We'll use the basic curl and all the things are showed up here. So just remember, this is all it takes to do the setup. And as we move forward, you will learn how to write these ingest steps or the ingest functions. This is the hello world. This is the very basic function. It requires 3 parameters to be passed on, or 3 major part: the ID, then the event, and then this handler. This handler can do anything, whatever you like. And then this is multi-step function in which you provide the same ID and the event. And after that, this handler can actually work with multiple other things. This is our step 1. Then this is basic our step 2 or some wait event. And this is our step 3, and there is nothing which is stopping us from having a step 4, step 5 and step 6. But this is your chapter 1. I hope you have enjoyed that and you got some basic idea of how the ingest work. In the step 2 or in the chapter 2, we are going to fire some of the events and we'll write more of these code and you will understand more about it. So see you in the chapter 2. All right, welcome to another chapter in the ingest course. Hope the last chapter was good. It was a bit more of a writing, but that we can't do much. We have to write the code. In this one, I will walk you through with one major step that we haven't yet done. That so far we have seen that how the events actually are there and we know pretty much well about them. But who is going to be responsible for triggering those events? We haven't seen them. We haven't walked through anything in action. In this section, we will walk through with the action. And again, we will write those steps and workflow again, because what I've noticed is when you write them again and again, you get more friendly with them. That's the whole reason we'll be writing them. Don't worry, it's a whole basic and easy thing. Also, in the last chapter, I have added this tsconfig file because I noticed in the node modules, it was giving me some errors, and not the errors, but red marking there. So excluding this makes sense. Now let's go into the chapter 2. Yes, we'll be doing them. A lot of chapters we need to create. Let's call this one as chapter 02, and few of the files will be exactly same inside this. The one is tsconfig.json, and all I have to do is copy. I have to copy paste a lot. So copy the tsconfig file all up here, and then we'll be creating these package JSON file as well. Rather, it would be better if I go ahead and open an integrated terminal and say npm init-y so that it creates all the files and we can just close all of them. And now from this package JSON, I can just copy all the data inside this package JSON and just paste this up here. So this is the chapter 2 and paste this up here. Let's rename this as chapter 2 introduction to ingest, and this time we'll be going through with express. This one makes sense. All this remains exactly same. And now I can just go ahead. Oops, I should be open up this one, integrated terminal. And now I can say npm install so that it installs everything. And what extra do we need here? For this one, we'll be needing express as well as express types. And I think that's it. Taking a bit time to install. Should have used bun. But I want to make the tutorial to be more accessible to more people. I think here we can just use bun. All right, good enough. And then I'll say npm install express. And we need to install the express types as well. So npm install @types for express. And there we go. Let's see how our package JSON looks like. So the package JSON says express types, seems all good. Now let's go one by one how the folder structure of this chapter is going to look like. First and foremost, we are going to have an src, And inside this src, we will have a new file, index.ts. Sounds okay. And most of the time, you're going to see a new folder where all the ingest related code is there. Feel free to keep them in any other folder. That is also fine. Now, in the ingest, if I open up an integrated terminal, usually you are going to see two files. Mostly one is client.ts or js, and then a separate file for functions.ts. We'll be needing both of them. So why two separate file? In the first of the video, I actually showed you to do everything in one go. Usually that is not the case. You create separate clients for each of the folder. Like in this case, let's just say you have multi-directory doing so many things. One application is e-commerce, one application is LMS. So in each of them, you create different ingest. Anyways, so in this one, you simply go ahead and say, I want to import ingest. And after that, you simply go ahead and export const ingest, which is created by new ingest, just like this. And you provide only one thing here, which is your object ID. And I call mine one as my express app. Fairly decent enough. So we break down them into two different things. Now, let's go ahead and open up our index.js. We'll come back onto the functions. Right now it's empty. Don't you worry. Only we have written is in the client. Let's come back into index.ts. And what basically we have to do is start basic express. So we'll go ahead and call this one as express. Not like, oh, what express version did we installed? Oh, this is Express version 5. We should be having an Express version 4. I'm still not yet comfortable with the version 5 to be have in this tutorial at least. So open an integrated terminal and I'll say npm install express at the rate 4. So install any version on the 4. That's good enough. All right, let's go up here. Express from express, that's the standard. And we'll be bringing the client here as well. So let's bring the ingest. And this one is coming up from the ingest client. Okay, we'll be creating and importing some of the functions as well. But first, let's create the very basic Express app. Const app, that is going to be Express basic. Const port is going to be 3000 in this case. And then we'll be saying, let's create a middleware as well because we'll be passing on some JSON data. So I can just go ahead and say express.json. And let's also limit the payload as well. Pretty generous one, 4 MB. And let's also log a middleware so that we know actually what's coming in. We'll not be using any third party for this. We'll write our own logger. We can simply say request and response. We'll need next also because it's a middleware. And then I can simply say console.log and request.method. The more data that we have for the logging, the better it is. And then we'll say request.path, I guess. Yep, that's the one. So this will give me the whole from where, what path and everything is coming up. And after that, I can just say next. This is our basic logger, which will give me the data of what all is coming up. Okay, now how do we actually start our ingest server? For that also you have to write a middleware. So app.use, and where the ingest middleware lives is usually what's recommended in the documentation is /API/ingest. This is the standard. And what you do after that is you actually import a serve method. They don't actually suggest it directly, but let me go ahead and grab that. Import serve, and that comes from ingest/express. So ingest has close tie-up and relation with express, and this is where this serve method actually comes. Yep, that's the one. And what this is a basic method. Now what you write inside that method, this is mentioned with the documentation of ingest. Basically, two things: where the client is and where the functions are. So what I'll do is, this is the object. So let me add the client and function. The first one is, yep, that's the one, client. And this is ingest. Remember the ingest that we created? I guess that's the one. Did we imported it correctly? Yep, that's the one ingest, and that's why we. Another one is going to remain empty as of now, but that is required. This is the functions. Remember, it's an S, functions, and this is an array. All the functions that you're going to create in that functions file actually comes up here. So that's the basic. Now let's go ahead and create some of the health checkpoints so that we can test the things. So app.get, this is really classic Express. And I'll simply write a simple callback, standard request response, just like that. And I'll send a JSON response with some data, just like that. And I'll say status, status. And of course, that's healthy. But also I want to send some message. And the message is going to say express plus ingest server running and some endpoints as well. Endpoints, that's going to be an object, and where we are serving the ingest, that's actually on /API/ingest. That's where we are serving the ingest. The test is going to be served at /test, and we'll also serve a test multi, and that's going to be served on /test-multi. There we go. And these are basically the test and multi-test are going to be post, but that's the standard approach. So we will come back onto this one because we haven't defined these test and multi-test because they are dependent on the ingest function. They are technically doing everything with the ingest itself. So we will come back and we'll define those routes in a minute. But as of now, let's just say app.listen. And I want to listen on to the port with a simple callback. Just goes like this. And I want to actually manufacture these console log in a little bit. Let me go ahead and write that. So there we go. I have written some fancy stuff here. So console log, which repeats 60 times this equal signs, and the ingest service is running. And our server is running on port 3000, and ingest server runs on the ingest port itself, ingest endpoint. And 3000 API ingest, this is how it runs and basic stuff. All right, we cannot run this as of now. We will definitely run this. But before actually running this, we need to create ingest functions. And this is where the functions file come into the picture. Step one, you do not import the ingest with this one. This is already being done. So you import the ingest, the smaller one, ingest. This is the client. This is the one that we are looking for. And then we design two methods, one for the basic one, basic test, and one for the multi-test. You can go ahead and import the previous function as well, no problem there. I'll call this one as const hello world basic method, which is going to be ingest dot create function. And as I mentioned, these functions are like this, comma, 2 commas, and there we go, async. This one gets event and data, event and data. So this time you see this is event and step. This time it is much easier for us to work with that because we have already seen that. You know this part. This is going to get an ID of hello world. This one gets an event. Which event will be responsible for triggering this? We'll say this one will be a test, then a /hello dot world basic. Now once we are done with this, let's go ahead and console log. This one will say event, or we'll say function triggered with event. Which event triggered this? So we can just display the event name. And similar to this, we can just go ahead and say event data. Event data. All right, good enough. And once we are done with this, let's create a simple step. Step one, which is greeting. What I have to do in this one? Const greeting, and I can say await step dot run. This is all I have to do. And two parts, which is create greeting, and then the second one is simple async. There we go. All right, hope there is no problem right now. We have seen this many times. What I'll do is I'll grab the name, and the name will come to me from event.data.name. If it is not there, I'll just call this one as world. After that, I'll grab the message, whatever is the message. So I can just go ahead and say hello and name. Welcome to Inngest. Cool. And once I'm done, I'll do a console log and I'll say this one. Yep, that one. And I'll say created greeting message. And at the end of it, we can just return the message. Just fun. So this is the basic that we have created a simple hello world. We can go ahead and create, wait for a few seconds and do more stuff. Let's actually do that. What's the harm in that? Okay, so we'll do a console log here and we'll say waiting for 2 seconds. If I can write that. Come on. 2 seconds. After that, I'll say await step.sleep, and this is going to sleep for how much? Uh, let's call this one a short delay. And we're going to sleep not for much, just for 2 seconds is fair enough. And then we can do this thing again. Copy this, paste that. And this time what we'll do is, or we'll say step.run. This time this will say, in fact, we always don't need to have this variable just like this. This is doing some function which doesn't return anything. Maybe there is a log that you do. So log completed or completion. This is where you log all of your activities of the user. So in this case, we can simply go ahead and say return completed as true. And we don't need to do all of this. We have done this once. And here I will say function completed successfully. And we don't need this message. All right, whatever the fun you want to have this or here, you can just go ahead and work with that. And once everything is all done, what we can do is we can just return. So return an object, and in this we'll just return a message that will be greeting, which is generated by our function. We can return timestamp if we wish to. Stamp. That's going to be new date dot iso to iso string, just like that. And we'll also give you an event ID, which is event dot id. All right, so I hope this is all okay. No big deal there. So we have created a very basic function. It just says hello world, but there could be a function with the multi-step demo as well. So let's write a multi-step and then we'll bring it in the express and we'll work on that. So const export const multi-step demo, same stuff, ingest dot create function, the first one, the second one, and then async a basic function, and the async one takes an event and a step. This one needs an ID. I'll give you an ID, which is going to be multi-step demo, good enough. And an event, which event is going to trigger this? This one will be demo slash multi-step. Okay, now comes up the interesting part is what do we want to do inside this? Now, as you can see, each of the step inside this is independent, is retriable, and you can even cache the data as well. So I'll do something interesting in here. So let's call this one as const step one result await, and we'll say step dot run. Step dot run. Okay. So the first one is, let's just say we are fetching some data from the internet. Cool. And in the async, you go like that. So in this, you probably add some data, something like that. Let's say we console log and we call this one as fetching data with dot dot dot. So this one is taking some time. Let's await in here with new promise. Whenever I have to wait, I use new promise. New promise. Yep, that one. And this one can resolve with set timeout, and we'll pass on resolve and 1000. What happened to this one? Autocomplete, probably. Set timeout, resolve, and 1000. There we go. And once we are done with this, we can simply go ahead and say return a data, which is important data, user ID, and we can have event dot data, and optionally we might have user ID in this one. So let's just say we'll pass on the user ID. And once we are done with this, we can simply do a console log of step one completed, and this is my step one result. All right, as you can see, we can definitely go as complex as you wish into this one, but this is obviously independent from step two. You can have a step two in here. And what I can do is I can just copy paste this to show you the step two. I'll call this one as step two result. In this, we will not fetch the data. Rather, we want to process the data. This is a step for processing this. And this time, instead of fetching data, we'll say processing data with the dot dot dot. And let's just say this one works much faster, so we don't need to wait. You can wait technically, there is no problem in that, but I'll say that this is what we have. And what the data we send out here is this one. We return a processed as true. Okay, data has been processed. And I'll say original data is step one result. We still have an access of that, and we can grab data out of it, and we can say processed at, and we can say date dot now. There we go. You can convert it into ISO string as well. And I'll say step two completed, and this one will be step two result. All right, now you can wait for a little bit, and then maybe there's a process of waiting a little bit because for some reason there's a wait. Await step dot sleep, and this is database connection. So wait before final, and we'll wait for maybe 3 seconds. And once I'm done this, then there is another step. Copy that and paste that. This is step three result. And what we do in this is run and we save the result. Maybe there's some data that comes up from online, you process that and you save that in the database. A whole lot of step is going on. So we'll say step three, saving data. And then we simply go ahead and return saved as true. Maybe for some reason, location is database or probably a string. You have saved it to location or database. If you wish, you can grab the time as well, but these are good enough for me. I'm happy with this. Now, once this is all done, then what we can do is we can return. So what we are returning is, by the way, where do we return always? So let me also walk you through because this sometimes confuses people. So this is our step 1, this is our step 2, and this is our step 3. So I'm returning from this async event and step. So what do we return from here? Totally up to you. We want to return a message that says multi-step workflow completed, and all the results can be thrown, or you can throw just one result. So I'll say step 1 gets step 1 result, and this one is step 2, which gets the step 2 result. This one gets the 3. So step 3 result. Quite a lot. But this is what we have. So just imagine that whatever the steps you wanted to make and whatever the complexity you want to have. By the way, you can import your database connection here, maybe anything else. Just feel free to do this. Now, how all of these actually gets combined up here, that's very interesting. So there should be some event which is responsible for triggering these events. And in order to do that, first and foremost, since we have exported these functions, remember, this is export const hello world, this is export const multi-step demo. So the step 1 is to import all this. So we'll just say hello world, we'll import that. And there is one more, which is multi-step demo. Now your ingest should be aware of these functions. So here we go, we get awareness. There we go. This is the step where your ingest get the awareness that all these are aware. And by the way, this is how I usually keep them. Easier to see. But my autosave doesn't like it. Okay. Now this is all done. Now we need to provide some endpoint which will be responsible for triggering these events. But here's the interesting part. How do we actually make our endpoints to invoke these functions? It's actually easy than you think for. So app.post, let's just say we send some post on /test, which will be responsible for this one. And I'll go ahead and say async request why are you doing this? Request response. Okay. So I'll do a try catch. So in the try part, first of all, console log, and I'll say sending test event. And after that, I can use this await, use ingest, and there is a method in the ingest. As you can see, so many of them. The one that we are interested in is the send. Yes, this one will send the event, and all of your workflow, all of your pipeline will execute after that. But you have to provide some data in this one as well. The first one is name. The name for my event is test/hello.world. And this might look very familiar to you. Test/hello.world. That's the event I'm calling up. Yep, that's exactly the event. That's the name of the event. Not only that, I can also pass on some data here. What data am I sending in here? I'll send the name as request.body.name. So whatever this come to you, or I'll just say the world. Cool enough. And then I'll also say timestamp. And timestamp will be new date to ISO string. There we go. All right. And what it will return you back is the IDs. So you can have the IDs here. And later on, we can actually display all the IDs. You can do that on your own, but I'll just display one. Event sent with ID. And I'll grab just the only one ID. The first one. All right, you can go ahead and do a try catch as well. And what I can do is, apart from this console log, I can send a response. Res.json, since it's a web server, I have to send a web response as a server. I have to send the JSON as a response. message is going to be event sent successfully, and event ID is going to be IDs, the first one, and I can send a tip as well. The tip is going to say check http colon slash slash localhost, and your ingest server runs on a very strange 8288. That's the one, and you can just look for it to see function execution. All right, that's enough. And I can also work on the catch part. Let me just go ahead and dump the catch part. I have it already. There we go. It's just nothing much. Console log error sent failed and then some basics of errors, error handling. We'll do the multi serving as well. But first, let's run this because we might do some mistake in this one. Okay, so we have to run these two servers. And chapter 2, please open an integrated terminal. And the first one is npm run dev. And there we go. Nice and beautifully looking. We need one more. Npm run ingest. Please run this time. There we go. All of them are running, hopefully, and we will be able to throw some response on that. So what's happening? Let's see. Are we running this? Yep, we have some of the runs. We have two functions being registered here this time. I can invoke any one of them, but I don't want to do that. I want to invoke them through a web request. Do I have apps? Yes, I have my Express app. This is the way, and there are two functions being found. And you can click on view on the functions, and there we go. Right now, there is no run, there is no event, and that is totally okay. Now, I would like to invoke them through a web request. All right, so you can send a web request through any of the web client, use Postman, Requestly, whatever is your favorite one. I'll choose something interesting. I'll choose Warp. It is also one of my favorite. So you can actually make a curl request on any platform, and I'll say -x to make a post request. And as you can see, this is giving me the suggestions as well. And this time the suggestion is not totally correct. On the port 3000, it's running. That's okay. But it's actually running on just the test as of now. And then I can send the headers as well. So I can just say -header. And then I can just simply say all this. So you can see -h stands for header. Can I zoom this? Yes. -h stands for the headers, and I can send the headers of content type as application JSON. Then I can send some data with -d. And this is my data. And by the way, always wrap your data in the singular quotes. That's how it takes it. Then we have this name, Alice, all of that. Once I send this, you will notice that at the behind it says running and it says now completed. Let me do that one more time so that you can pay more attention. Notice here behind the scene where it says completed. So if I run this again here, notice it says running and then it says completed because we are doing so much of the data. And what we get from this data is event sent successfully. We get the event ID, which is 0 something, this whole big thing. And then we simply say tip check all of this one. So what happened onto this one? Let's analyze that. So when you sent this event and all of these things, first of all, the event is caught by this request, which is on the /test. Remember, this is where we are sending the request. Where is my warp? Here it is. So we are sending this web request to the /test. This is where it goes. After that, this catches up my web request and invokes the ingests a function or an yes, this is a function which is named as test/hello world. And it sends this much of the data along with this. So remember, we are sending the name in the request body. So this name is being captured and is being transferred as the data to this one. After that, the whole acquisition is taken up by this hello world function. And everything and anything that you mention in this one, this actually is being taken here. So this is the event name, which can be responsible for triggering this whole hook or this whole event. Hook is not a right word here. Okay. So what it did in the step 1, it actually returns a greeting message here. We'll see that what it returns back to us. Don't you worry. And then it goes through all of this. It waits for 2 seconds and this logs the completion and everything. And we can actually see all of this here in this case as well. So notice here, this whole greeting event sent successfully. function completed successfully, and no, this is not the one. Here it is. So this whole event and created greeting and welcome, all of this is being sent to us. And by the way, we can actually check them. Click on any one of them and you get more data. The app My Express was responsible for this. This is my running ID so that I can verify that again. This is the starting, this is the ending, this is the function, this is the duration, this is the queued at, and you can copy that queue ID. So the whole infrastructure is managed here. This is where you can see the function payload as well. The ID is this, the name is this, the data that is being sent, the timestamp that we have given, all of this. We can send it to dev server, copy this. There's a whole bunch of things. And these are all the further sub-step in the function that you have created. So notice this is create greeting. So this has created the greeting. Then there's a short delay, which does nothing, of course. And then there is attempt 0, there is attempt 1, and then there is a log completion, so completed true. And then there is a finalization where you receive event ID, message, and the timestamp. So everything is given to you. And this is so much of a high valuable data and highly complex application that a lot of people, and in fact, I've seen so many people, they can't do it. And the best part, there's a rerun button. So in case for some reason this fails, you can actually rerun and analyze the whole thing. Now let me go ahead and quickly add one more function here to walk you through that how the multi-step test is going to be written. So bear with me. This is a little bit of the code that we have to write. So in the index, this is all done. So we'll do app.post and we'll say slash test dash multi same async request come on, don't do this. Request response goes like this. And again, holding up our try catch, the catch part is same. Copy that and paste that. Good enough. And what happens in the try part? We do a first log, which says sending multi-part demo event. After that, the same stuff. We extract the IDs from that and await ingest.send. We send this like this, and this time the name. How do we grab the name? I'm pretty sure now that you know about it. You know exactly. Don't worry, this is just a chapter 2. We have so much to study about this. All right. So this is the multi-step that we have got. The next step is data. You get that. And the data we are sending is user ID. Again, the user ID will be extracted by request.body.user ID. User needs to send this. Otherwise, we'll just, for the safety reason, we'll say user123. And we'll also send an action as demo. It can be anything. This is what we have. And by the way, we can copy paste some of this thing. Okay, come on, get away. Copy this and paste it up here. Extra comma, don't need that. And we have this console log. We can save this. We need to fix it a little bit. This is okay. Instead of sending event sent successfully, this one should say multi-step event sent successfully, not send, sent successfully. And this will execute. This one is okay. Not worried much on that part. And there we go. All right. Seems okay. Let's see if we do need to restart anything. No, I don't think we have a watch mode. If I save this, yeah, it auto reloads. All right. So now can we go ahead and send this multi-step data or multi-part data, and we should be able to run this. This would be nice. And there we go. I can refresh all the runs, which I definitely don't want to do, but here's my trusty curl. So I'm going to go ahead and say curl. We want to send a post request to HTTP localhost, this time slash. This one will be test dash multi. The data is same content type application JSON. The data is there, and user ID user 456 is good enough. We can definitely go more for that, but I think that's good enough. If I enter this, there we go. Behind the scene, you can see it is still running, and we can see this all happening
live in front of us. Takes a little bit time, but I think if I do a little bit faster this, we can actually see all of this. So let's run this, and there we go. And there we go, all happening live in front of us. So this is the way, or this is the mechanism how you can see all the requests being sent to LLM, what streaming of the data is coming up, what the response is coming in. You can watch and witness everything live. So notice this is live. This is the fetch data that we are trying to do, important data and the user 456. Then we are trying to do a process data. Then we have some wait before final. So attempt 1, attempt 0. So these are just waiting, and then we save the result to database, and then we finalize this and send all the data back. And this is one of the beautiful thing that you can have. And notice here you also get some data back, so message, multi-step event successfully, event ID, and all the tip that we want to send. And you can definitely do more processing on that, maybe send an email to the user, because for the web request it's just one data went up and it just closed the data, that's it. But I hope you got the idea that why I say that this is one of the most powerful thing that you can have in your application. So we haven't written much. It's just a different way of writing the whole code. But you got more idea in the chapter 2 as compared to the chapter 1 that how these things actually make sense. So yes, my strategy is definitely a little bit odd from the others. I like to go in the step-by-step manner in the easiest bit and chunks, but eventually you get more confidence with this strategy. So that is it. That's the chapter 2 of Ingest. I hope you have now much more confidence so that how you can ingest in your application. That's it for this one. Let's catch up in next one. All right, welcome to the chapter 3 of our ingest course. Now, in the past two chapters, I have walked you through with each and every line of code so that we can truly understand and take a moment in writing the code itself, which gives a pause in the whole flow of the ecosystem and gives you enough of the time to absorb things in your brain. But from this point onward, I would rather go on to the explanation part more than just writing the code, because you already have seen how the index file is being created, how an object is created from the ingest, how the create function is used, how the three objects are key important aspect of the ingest. So the foundation is all clear. Now we need to understand the different types of concept that we have. So don't expect me to simply just follow and along write all the code. From this point onward, I would rather go on to the explanation purpose, but I'll not dump the entire code in front of you. We will walk through with entirety of each line of code, why this is here, what it's doing, why is it important, all aspect. Don't worry, you will have a complete good time in understanding the ingest and especially the fan out architecture of this. Now, usually for a fan out architecture, an event comes and this single event is distributed to multiple of the services, and hence the name a fan out architecture. One of the common thing or common architecture that you're going to see for the fan out architecture is Kafka ecosystem. But you don't need Kafka if you have ingest. So let me walk you through with the entirety of detail how to set up a fan out architecture. All right, so let me take you onto the screen and together we are going to have a discussion on this. So this is so far our ecosystem that we have been playing around. Let's go ahead and create a new folder inside this. We are going to call this one as chapter 03. This is our fan out architecture where we are going to have the things. Now, a couple of things will still remain same like package.json, package lock.json file, even the ts config. These are going to just remain exactly same. So let me go ahead and copy them and paste them inside this. They are going to remain exactly same. In fact, we will have the source in other folders as well. So I would just rather have this here. So let's have a src folder. And just to speed up the things, I will this time use bun because bun is relatively much faster in my case and probably your case as well. So let's just stop this and simply have bun install in, oh, I'm actually in the wrong folder. So remove all of them and now open up a new integrated terminal in chapter 3 and let's call this one as bun install. And yes, this is ridiculously fast as compared to the previous one. Now the steps are going to remain exactly same. The first step is to create a new folder inside the source and we're going to keep everything related to ingest inside this. But also this source needs one more file which is going to be index.ts or js, whatever makes sense to you. And this is where our first interaction through the express will remain. Now, we have already seen that whenever we create this ingest, we try to keep the object a bit separate. So we'll do the same in this one as well. I'll call this one as simply index, or Most likely you like to call this as client in this case, so client.ts. And what's going to be the code inside the client.ts? And this is where we are not going to spend much of the code in writing. Surely you can go ahead and write this. There is no issue in that. But here we simply create an ingest. As we extract the ingest class itself, we create an object to create an new object of ingest, and we simply export that. That's the standard way of doing the things. Now, once we do this, this time we are kind of simulating an environment of user registration or user enrollment on our application. It is recommended that you create all of your functions inside a functions directory, but not compulsory. It's up to you how you architecture your application. And I'll create a new file into this since all of the user signup related stuff will live here. So I'll call this one as user signup.ts. The step one is pretty simple. You go ahead and simply say, I want to have an ingest with a smaller ingest that we have exported. So no suggestions. And this one will come from the current directory and client. Feel free to add a .ts, that's up to you. So this is the basic part of it. And why is it giving me? It's declared but not used. That's okay. Now, how does the whole thing and ecosystem work is we create a whole lot of different functions in this one. So first one is going to be export const, and this is send welcome email. Any application or any service that takes much of the time, that's a usual clue to go ahead and create a separate function or separate ingest function for that. Now what goes inside this is pretty simple. There are two major things that we have already seen. The first one is the name. You can define an ID which can be unique to each function, and then an optional name, send a welcome email. That makes sense. Now event, as we have discussed, this needs to be like this format. They actually mention this format in their documentation as well, like sometimes verbs and actions and all those combination. But what makes sense to me that what model am I touching with this? So user is the model or user is the object that I'm touching up. What action I'm taking, sign up is the action, and what verb is going to be there. So is it completed in a step, in verification or something like that. So that's the basic event. Now after that, you simply go ahead and write your callback. Callback doesn't bother in this case because anyways, we are just simulating the stuff. So I'm just going to throw this function here, which actually sends an email. It doesn't send actual email. It just simulates that we are sending the email. So we simply extract email, name, and plan from the event data. We have already seen that. Couple of console logs to make us happy. And then we simply say that we are preparing the content based on the plan. So based on what plan user is subscribed to us while signing up. Is it a free plan? Is it a pro plan? Is it an enterprise plan? Based on that, we're extracting the benefits. And then finally, we are just returning this email. And that's all what we are doing. Once we are done with the email, which is email content being progressed, we are simply sending the email. So this is a step run of sending the email. Assume that this is contacting your email API server, delivering all of the data and all of that. And this one here simply simulates an API service, which simply sends an email. And for that, you might have to wait for a few seconds or few minutes, depends on the service. And finally, we simply send that, all right, email is being done. Not only that, we also log this information that, all right, the email is being sent. So we want to log this into your post hog or whatever the logging services you're using. And that's it. The whole part is all done. So as you can see, and the most important part to catch up here is this event. We will use this again. So the event, the single event, which is triggering all of this is user, then signup.completed. I hope this is making sense now and all of the things are good. So far, we have already seen this. There is nothing much new that we are actually exploring in this case. What's interesting that we can do here is that we haven't discussed much is something like this. Setup user preferences. User preferences. And for this also, we can just use ingest.create function just like this, which has an object, just goes like this, or we can just simply hit an enter in this case. All right. What you will notice in this case, what we are doing is kind of exactly same, but a little bit different. Notice here closely. This was send welcome email. This is setup user preferences, and the name can be anything that you like. And then notice the event here. The event is still the same. User sign up completed, and here also user sign up completed. Now the obvious question is, which one is going to act first?
is going to be the line number 4 function which will act first, or the line number 89. Here's the interesting thing about the ingest. All of these are independent yet invoked by the same action call, which is user signup dot completed, and they are completely independent of each other. If one fails, it doesn't bother the other one. Both can be completed, both can be failed, or one can be succeeded, one can be failed in this case. Now again, what we are doing in the async function, that's not, that should not bother us in this case, because it anyways, we have seen this already in last two chapters, that how this is all being done. So it's just a simulation. It's just a simulation where we are simply console logging a few stuff that, hey, we are working on user preferences. Maybe we connect to some database, some use some default preferences here based on the plan. It's just more simulation so that we get real world idea of how these things are done. When we write to the database, we want to await for a few seconds, few, definitely not minutes, but definitely few seconds. And then we simply set up the preferences and send the preferences confirmation email also. Sometimes maybe user is changing the paid plan to some else plan, maybe some more configurations are being changed, maybe there is some uh, revenue share pricing that's being changed, that should send or trigger an email as well. So there could be an email in that case based on that. And finally we are returning. So whatever is your business logic, go ahead and work on business logic in this case. Import your database, import your models, whatever you want to do. But here's the interesting thing, that all of this can be done exclusive to each other. And just to prove the theory, and to not to prove that, to really solidify the learning here, I'll go ahead and simply say that I want to track the sign up as well. So maybe, and usually there's a tracking service involved in big, large scale application. So track sign up analytics, there is another function, and you can write as many function as you like. There is no shortage of these function. So in this case also, I can go ahead and work on with that. And that is why I say that anything and everything that's related to user sign up, because in future you might have more services available. The only thing you have to worry about is that the trigger element is exactly same, because when users sign up into our Express application, we will be triggering this event. We will be sending this event. And once we send this event, these three will become an independent workflow of each other. That's the whole thing. Now let's also go ahead and grab another simulation of this function that we have already seen. And there we go. So again, not much is happening in this. We are just tracking the analytics. So we extract the user ID, plan, and sign up data, do a step run to send the analytics to any services that you are working on. And again, I have tried to make it look as close as possible, but these are again simulation. We simply try to simulate for 700 milliseconds here that maybe you are returning it to post hog, sentry, depends on what you want to do. All right. So as you can see, pretty simple stuff, not much to worry about. And I hope now you can appreciate that how much time we are saving by just having a walkthrough, because this is anyways a simulation environment. So once this is all done, that means all of our part is done. We don't have to worry anything about it, and just work on that. Now, another thing that sometimes you might be doing is using these analytics event. You might want to set up a type safety or event.ts, might want to define the types of user sign up event or analytics. That's totally up to you. Again, this is nothing much to do with the regular stuff. Anyways, let's go into index.js. Oh, this client should ingest. That's good. Okay. I thought we are having it outside. So we will go ahead and work with the index. And now what we'll do is we'll simply go ahead and first import all these stuff. So we are importing Express, we are importing serve from ingest Express to serve them on some endpoint. Then we simply grab the ingest client and we simply ingest or take up all the functions that we have defined. That's the basic stuff. And after that, we simply go ahead and define them as port and express. We have seen them many times, shouldn't bother you much. We have also seen that how we can write our own custom middleware, which actually gives us the whole idea of what method is coming up and what method is going out. Also, we have to set up the express JSON so that we can accept the JSON data. We have already seen that how to set up the server functions or use the serve, which is given to us by the ingest express combination. And in that, we have two things always. Client is ingest, again, exactly same as chapter 2. Functions, bring up all the functions that you have used so that you can see them and have a visualization in here. And sometimes, since we are doing a simulation of in-memory environment,
will not connect any database. So this is my interface for the user. Again, TypeScript stuff shouldn't bother you much. And we're keeping all the users in memory, not in the database itself. So feel free to just go ahead and grab this one all up here. Now I have a couple of health check endpoints as well. So these are just the basic ones so that when you run these application, it should actually give you something. So we will have a couple of endpoints. First of all, status is healthy, message is all there. An endpoint, we should have a post endpoint which says slash API slash signup. We might have optionally, this is not compulsory, get API call to get all the users, and for the ingest, automatically slash API slash ingest. And this middleware is responsible for that. It automatically handles the stuff. We don't have to worry anything about it. Now coming back onto the post request that we have, which is going to trigger all of this, you'll be surprised to see that how easy it is. So if I go back up at the very top of this, it looks a lot, but it is not. It's just a simulation. So first of all, we open up a simple try catch block. Pretty simple. In the catch part, we simply go ahead and throw the error instances. Pretty simple, very standard one. And in the try part, we first extract all the data, just like you extract in the real application. Add some validation. Totally depends on you. Maybe you have a Zod validation, maybe you have used something else, totally up to you. But the whole point is to simulate as closely as a real world environment. Then we simply check what plan user is opting for, free plan, enterprise plan, or a pro plan. And then we optionally check whether the user exists in our database, or in this case, in-memory array. But feel free to go ahead and fire up your request to the database to see whether the user already exists or not. If user doesn't exist, we simply go ahead and create that user. We simply take the IDs, or we sometimes don't take, database creates IDs for us, name, email, go ahead and run your encrypt password mechanism or your methods for that, and simply go ahead and push the user into your database, MongoDB, Drizzle, MySQL, Postgres, whatever you take. Once you are done with that, this is how the usual workflow should look like. Ingest functions are just optional things, like not optional, but they should happen after saving the user in your database. Email, analytics, all these things are secondary for us. The first important thing is to save the user information in the database. So we do that first. After that, this is the part where simply trigger this. This is the key moment. Send the event to the ingest. And this one event will trigger three functions in parallel, the three functions that we have created. Now this three here is optional, and there could be much more. And I have seen that. There could be many more. 3 is just an arbitrary number here. It could be 30 as well. No problem at all. Ingest can totally handle that. And what we do is we simply say that ingest.send, and this is where we put the name of the event. Again, notice here, user slash signup dot created. There could be more events on login, user slash login dot completed or login dot clicked, whatever is the case. There could be same events that can happen on your orders created, wish list created, or maybe order completed as well, processed as well. Even you can wire up the webhooks as well. So many stuff can happen in this one. And this is the data that we are sending up. And by the way, if you remember, if you notice here, the data is all coming up from the database itself in this case. And that is all you have to do. That's it. That's it, triggering three independent workflow that can be managed, that can be monitored from the ingest workflow itself. And this whole thing is known as the fan out architecture. And the fan doesn't need to be fanned out only through the three events. It could be 30 as well. Rest of the stuff is pretty simple. This is where we simply send the response back to the user. No extra work is being done here. Now, surely in the notes or these code files, I'll give you more of the details as well. But I hope now this is giving you more idea of how the things are actually being done. It's not that easy. Why are you having an issue? Okay, this is happy now in this way. I'm okay with that. Anyways, shouldn't be bothering up much, and this is okay. So I hope you got the idea in this chapter that how the fan out architecture can be used in the ingest. It's relatively simple, and we are saving so much of the time by walking through with the code because there is no point, there is no sense of writing the same code again and again. Even in the upcoming chapters also, the code is kind of exactly same, but I'll give you these code files anyways. Applications like ingest are not something that if it is your first day of creating the API, you usually don't see them. This is usually meant for somebody who has already done kind of decent level of CRUD application through the backend architecture. I hope you have enjoyed this and you're getting some value out of these videos. If yes, please drop a like, a heart, a comment, anything, just a thank note in the comment section. I would be super happy with that.
That is it. Let's catch up in the next video. Welcome to the chapter 4. Yes, that's chapter 4 for this one. So in the chapter 4, we are going to study about another important aspect of building scalable application, which is cron jobs. Cron jobs, in case you have never done or worked with them, these are scheduled job that happens no matter what is there. Some of the key examples of the cron jobs, and in fact, any application which is just above the medium scale requires 100% of the cron jobs. And there are dedicated servers which are kept just to run these cron jobs. Not anymore. You can just hand over all of these tasks to Ingest as well. So how can we do that, and what could be the example of these cron jobs? Maybe every day at 9 a.m. you want to collect some reports or want to extract some key information from the database, craft this as an email and want to send it to the stakeholders so that they can take some actions, maybe CEOs, CTOs, or somebody else who manages this infrastructure. Now, this is an activity that needs to happen every day at 9 a.m. and you have no control. There is no event being sent. It just needs to happen. Another example is maybe every 2 hour you collect the detailed report of abandoned cart information. Now for this you might have to connect with database and grab the information, but this needs to happen every 2 hour so that you can collect the information of all these people, send it to your sales team, and they can actually do a follow up with entirety of the abandoned cart user that can heavily impact the sales operation. Another thing that can be done is a database cleanup. Maybe every day at 2 a.m., you do the database cleanup, stuff like all the spam emails that happen to register or all the temporary inbox email users that have showed up, and you have a database where you can match them up. You want to just discard them. Or maybe all those people who have just signed up but haven't confirmed their email, you want to shoot them an email again, maybe some kind of another database cleanup that you usually do. Maybe add things into read replicas or whatever you do. There is some activities that happens at 2 a.m. every day. You get the idea that cron jobs are really important, that needs to happen. So how we can utilize ingest in having the cron jobs, and what does it mean by to have a cron job? What's the format? What's the structure? That's exactly what we are going to study in this one. Let me go ahead and walk you through with the entire detail of how the cron jobs are being done. Again, it's really simple. And for this also, we will bring up a few of the common files. I think this is enough. So I'll just copy this and let's create another chapter. So we'll create a chapter 04. That's good enough. And inside the chapter, we'll just paste these files. So we can just remove this. And we can do the bun install here as well. No problem. I'm just trying to keep them separate so that you get all these details separately. So bun install should be good, should be fast enough. And rest of the stuff will remain exactly same for this one. So let me just go ahead and create a new folder, which will be src. We will work on our index file, but index file in this case doesn't matter much because any Express application, basic Express application should be good enough. It doesn't really interact with what we are about to design. Now, a couple of things that we always go ahead and design in this case is, first of all, a new folder, which is ingest, to keep all the ingest activities up and separate. And what we're going to do is create a new folder inside it. We'll keep all of our functions inside this. And inside the function, we'll keep this one. So inside the ingest, I'll create a new file and we are going to call this one as simply client.ts. Client gets the same data just like what we have. We just change the ID to schedule job and nothing much. So no excitement here. We have already seen that in the past 3 chapter. Shouldn't be explaining this any further. All right. So now inside the functions, we will create a new file and this will be our scheduled.ts. Okay, so how do we design these schedules? Again, there is no extraordinary special stuff with that. So first of all is you import the ingest from the client. That's basic. And after that, let's just say we design the functions just like this. So export const. This is my daily sales report. Now again, the logic totally depends on you, what you really want to do. I just want to show you how these functions are invoked uh, on the basis. So step 1 is same, you design the ID, and ID should be unique.
but it doesn't need to be UUID unique. If you name them uniquely, that should be enough. If you name them descriptively, that should be enough. So ID and the name remains same. So daily sales report. Also, in the ID, it is recommended that you don't use any spaces. That's going to be good for you. Now, here you have seen that inside this, we usually mark our event. If you have noticed, this is the event, that's the one. But there is also one more, which is known as cron. And what is cron? How it works? So, cron is not something special to ingest, it's something which is special to the Linux system itself. And there are many cron jobs which runs without even ingest or just with that, but here we can reliably see them in the workflows. We can actually check their failures because cron can run actually in the Linux as well, but there is no monitoration on those Linux ecosystem. There is no observability layer. What happens if the cron has failed? I have no information on that. So either I have to install some observability layer on the entire ecosystem, or I can just use the ingest, which automatically monitors it, retries it, and all the charms that comes with that. Now, for any of the cron job that you're working on, you will see a syntax just like this. So there are lots of star that goes on. The first star in this one actually means that this is the minute, minute zero, or it just denotes the minute. Then there is a second star which denotes that uh, what's the hour here. So first one is minute, the second one is hour. Then the third one is actually the day of the month. I will walk you through with some of the examples as well. By the way, you can easily find the examples, no big deal there. Once we have the day of the month, then we have simply month defined from 1 to 12, all you can mark. And then there's interesting one, which is the every day of the week. So this is how usually it is being defined. And with these filling up of these values, you can define the cron jobs. As you will work more with them, you will get to understand with them. Practice is the only key, and these days ChatGPT helps quite insanely lot. So how do we define crons in the ingest ecosystem? The step one is to put everything inside the string, and then you define the TZ, which is time zone. It is very important, and time zone is not at all easy to handle. So let's just say we define the most common America slash New York. In case you are anywhere else, ingest documentation will help you to define that time zone. So in this case, I'll just say America slash New York, but feel free to use any time zone. And then I want this sales report to come every day at 9 a.m. So how will I define it? So I will say that 9 a.m. So it is not 9:30, it is 9. So I'll just say 0 for this. And then 9 because it's 9 a.m. So it's 9. Otherwise, it moves on to the 24-hour clock. And then rest of the stuff will go no mention of this, no mention of this, no mention of this. So our minute is there, hour is there, day of month, don't care of it, month, don't care of it, daily, day of the week, don't care for it. So this is the most basic aspect. Again, as you will see more of these examples, you will be able to understand more on that. That's it. That's your cron job. And after that, what comes up is async functions. In these functions, we just have the step because there is no data that comes up. It's just a step if you want to go further on that. And then we simply go ahead and work like that. That is it. Now, in this case, let's just say, I will say daily report sent. And this is where you design your entirety of the logic, whatever you want to do, all these stuff. Let's also handle one more of uh, this cron job so that you get some idea of it. Again, these are all independent of each other. You can run multiple of these jobs exactly at 9 a.m. No problem there. But let me walk you through with one more so that you get an idea of that. So we'll just say that this is the one for abandoned cart recovery. Good enough. And again, same goes like that. So ingest dot create function, just like that. The first step remains exactly same. So I would rather copy paste it. Why to waste any time? And we can just paste this. So this is the first one where we simply, instead of this, we'll just go ahead and say this is our abandoned cart report. Abandoned cart report. There we go. And let me move this here, here, just arranging them a little bit. All right. So once we have this, then the next step is obviously to run the cron job. Now, I highly recommend you to have the time zone, but if you want to run with the server time zone,
then all you can do is just start writing the cron itself, the cron ecosystem. So let's just say we want to run this every 2 hour. There are a couple of ways how you can do this. So no minutes, no mention of that. And what you can do is, here's interesting syntax. You can say asterisk by 2. So that means every 2 hours. Yes, there's a whole lot of syntax that can go around with that. And yes, again, ChatGPT simply helps in that. Nobody remembers the cron, so don't worry on that. So strike for that, and that will run every 2 hour. And again, what's remaining is your async function. And again, what goes inside the async function is just the step. Told you, I will make this the entire ingest as your second nature. And here you can just simply go ahead and say report sent. And that's all it takes. Now, here's the interesting thing. Surely I can go ahead and work on the index that just like we have worked in this one. But luckily, in this case, it doesn't really matter. You might have a trigger for the daily report. You might not have that. Doesn't really care. Because to be honest, this is just a cron job, which no matter what happens, it's always going to keep on working. Now, surely we can have an endpoint for that, but that doesn't make sense. So I'll keep this file as empty so that you get an idea. And by the way, if you want, you can just copy it from the previous chapters. No big deal there. So these are all the data and that whatever we wanted to have in this one. Let me just show you one more thing. I just want to take a few minutes to go through with the docs because now you will be able to understand these docs in a much better syntax. And ultimately, this is the single point of truth where everybody learns and everybody just make these videos or anything like that. So we have gone through with the Node.js ecosystem, but now these trigger functions, events and trigger, everything will make sense to you. So events and trigger, you can say that we can send the events, event payload format, cron, the delayed function is also there, the direct invocation and webhook. Where I want to bring your attention is the webhook, which is hiding behind me. So this is the webhook. And if you look at closely, the webhook events are also exactly same. Just like we have some events, webhook has nothing. These are just open endpoints where some of your third-party service gets a request, a web request. Now, in those web requests also, you can trigger an ingest endpoint or ingest webhook. So here they mention that how these endpoints can be created and all these stuffs, the whole ecosystem and all that. It's not really that tough. It's exactly same, so you can work with that. One of the key point where a lot of people happen to use these ingest webhook these days is when you have any authentication being handled by third party. Like for example, there are so many third party applications available like Clerk, Betterauth, and these are standalone applications that has nothing to do with your database. So these services have the capacity to trigger an endpoint. When they trigger the endpoint, you just receive them in your server and can trigger an ingest workflow. So ingest take that data and makes an entry into your database. Again, simple workflow, shouldn't be bothered you much anyways. And we have all gone through with these fan out architecture. This is something that we have studied. We have multiple triggers, wildcards, and all these things. Whatever is there to explore, we have gone through with that. Batching events, we have also studied them. These are just batch events and you can work with them, API log calls and all these. Again, documentation is the best way. And again, no book or no tutorial can walk you through with the entirety of that. As you will learn with them, as you will work with them, you will understand more. It's a super powerful tool which is being used by a lot of people these days. So I happen to just make an entire workflow on that or entire tutorial on that. So this is our basic walkthrough and the tutorial. Now it's time that we dive deep into a really complex code base. And don't you worry, I'll give you the entirety of code bases and these files as well so that you can go through with them. So in the next and final chapter of this entire course, I will walk you through the entire detail of the complex project that we have built up so that you can understand each and everything that's there in the ingest, which can go in the production itself. Let's go ahead and catch up in the next section of this video. All right, so now that you know a whole lot about ingest, let me walk you through with a professionally built project, and we're going to go through with the code base of it. I'll give you whole code files as well. You can easily go ahead and change them, host them, whatever you like to work, and these are ready to deploy. So let me take you onto the code base and we'll have a discussion on this one here. So the first thing that you're going to see is, let me just move this here. And by the way, I can just minimize this. So the first thing that you're going to see here is a lot of code files. This is a project built in Next.js. So the first step is obviously to look into package.json. And don't you worry about the package, Jason. There's a lot in here, but that's okay. That's totally fine. Since it's a professional grade project, it has to have so many of the components. And what you can see, this is a dev. So next dev, pretty awesome. We don't have the ingest being written in the script itself. Surely you can write just like we have written in all these chapters. That's why I give you this file. You can write that or you can run this. This is exactly what you have to run: npx ingest cli latest dev. Feel free to add it as a script or just use it however you like. After that, since this is a production grade application, we are using Neon as the database, but we are connecting it through the Drizzle itself. In case you don't know about Drizzle, just let me know in the comment. I'll create a whole dedicated video or a series on the Drizzle itself. I would love to do that. And this project use AWS client as well. Then on top of that, we have optional Upstash. We are not using it, at least in this version or this branch of the code. And we have all these Lucid React, Next Theme, and most importantly, OpenAI, React. Obviously, it's a Next.js project. And we have the Zod as well for working with that. So it's not too much, as you can see. It looks a lot, but it's not much. Just some elements like React Markdown and hook forms, just our visual elements, not much to be bothered about. Now, after that, the first step that you can see here is that the whole application backend lives inside the app. And what you see outside, the things like lib, the all APIs and everything, these are all front-end related work that we have. Once we open up the app, the first thing that I would love to walk you through is directly inside the API. As you can see, we have all these APIs that are handling users, upload files, the searching mechanism, the questions, some ingest work, which we are here for, and the auth and the answers here. Now, where the things actually are interesting for us is the ingest. Let's open this, that how closely we have studied this. If I open this up, we have the first route.ts. And in this route, if you just ignore all these import statements, this is something that we have already seen. So we just simply handle the get, post, and put on the serve. And notice here, this serve is given to us by the ingest next. Just like there is a serve available from Express, ingest Express, we have a serve available for explicitly designed Next.js as well. And the format is exactly same. We simply bring the client, and notice here, the client actually comes from here. So this is the ingest. We have defined it into the lib. Again, define it anywhere, just bring that up. It's the same client. And whatever the functions we have defined, these functions live in here. We have the functions which generate the AI answer. We have the function which sends the welcome email, sends an answer notification, and sends the answer accept notification as well. There could be more as well, but we have defined just this one. Let's start with the welcome email so that we can see what's going on in this welcome email. If I just go ahead and bring this up here. So notice here, these are basic resend configuration. Shouldn't be bothered you much. Then we have this send welcome email. Notice the syntax here, ingest.create function, exactly what we have studied. This is the ID and the name of the function so that it shows up in the workbench of ingest. Then we have the event which is user created. So whenever we have a user being created, once it goes to our database and all these things, we invoke an event which is named as user created. And this is where all of our logic lives. As you can see, exactly same. Now, whatever goes in your logic, it's totally up to you. We have the event and step, just like that. We extract the data from the event. Then we get the resend client. And if there's no client, we throw the error. Otherwise, we simply run the step to send the email. In this one, we simply say that this is the dev email and all the content of the email shouldn't bother you much. If it gets me an error, I show an error message. Otherwise, I return the data. As you can see, it is as close as what we simulated. So again, there is no much difference in that in sending the email. So this is the part one of how we simply grab and send the email. Now, there are a couple of other things which is generate AI answer. And I know a lot of you might be wondering how that's being done. Don't worry, I will walk you through with that. So again, if you look at closely here, and if I just shrink this working functionality part, again, the same ID name. And one interesting thing that we are adding up is more property, which is concurrency. So ingest give you this ability of running the concurrent calls of any function or this exact copy of this function if multiple events happen to invoke it. In our case, we are putting up a limit of 10, but if you have a high-end application, there's nothing which is stopping you to increase the number. But again, as you increase the number, your workload will increase, you need higher end servers. Or if you're on the ingest paid plan, you need a higher paid plan in that case. But it's again depends on the traffic. Now the event that is throwing up or invoking this workflow is question.created. And if I open this up, notice here, we first extract the data, simple as it is. We also go ahead and grab these pre-signed URL of the image if they exist. So again, your image might live on Cloudinary, may live on AWS, may live on ImageKit, any place where your image can live, it can live up there. So this is just grabbing the URL of the image so that we can submit these images on the AI API calls. That's it. Now, the step here, notice here, this is multi-step workflow. We are doing a lot of steps and lot of work in just one call. The step one is just up here. So notice here, this is the await step.run, which is generate the image URL. So this is what we are doing. Once this image is being generated, we have the access of this. The step two is the AI tag generation. So if you remember our application, we have a couple of steps that are going through in it. The first step is to just generate the tags of the question and then we generate the answer of this. So this step is a workflow which generates this one. Notice here we are using AI step.ai and these are something which are explicitly given to us. So here we simply go ahead and infer this. And again, so far we have just used the step.run, but this is something that you have to use when you're using the AI part of the ingest. Now for this AI part, let me go ahead and take you onto the documentation of this. So if you notice closely here, and I have to move this a little bit, you can see the step and workflow gives you so many of this. Function steps we have talked, sleep, wait for event, fetch some data, and there is a AI inference as well. And if you notice closely here, using step.ai.infer allows you to call any inference provider endpoints by offloading it to ingest infrastructure. So what basically we are doing, we are calling an inference provider, which in this case is OpenAI, but it could be Gemini as well. All request and response are automatically tracked within your workflow. So what happens in this, when we make an AI call, it's not a regular API call. Sometimes these AI gives you data response after a certain time, and that could be from milliseconds to even minutes. And sometimes the whole response that comes to you is actually in the streaming format. And we don't have to worry about that at all. We simply just use step.ai.infer and we call our inference provider through the ingest. We don't call it directly. In the fetch calls, we are actually making the calls directly. AI, this whole ingest is tracking our whole flow of the functions, but we are not actually handing over the work to the ingest. But in the case of AI, we are handing the entire workflow to the ingest, and ingest is responsible for this. This is known as request offloading. Our serverless environment, your function is not executing while the request is in progress, which means you don't pay for function execution while waiting for the provider response. Once the request finishes, your function restarts the inference data result. Ingest never logs or stores your API key, of course. So this is the whole point. And you can see this is what we have. We actually have more stuff now as the things are getting, we have more updated stuff. So step.ai.infer, we call the OpenAI and then we provide the whole data as well, whatever the format they accept in that case. So this is exactly what we have. AI.step.infer, we simply generate the tags for this one. The model that we are calling is GPT-5 mini to save some money. But again, feel free to call anything. And then we provide the system data and all of this. This is AI call. And whatever the data we get, it is just the response that we get back. And again, these are just some minor filtration of the data, nothing much there. We also have another step, and this is very interesting, where we actually use another API to actually read our images. So if you go up here, we actually use GPT-5, which is perfectly capable of inferring the images as well. We actually use that as well. So image lens and all of that. And again, we don't do anything in that. AI automatically read those images. So as you can see, multiple steps are going into this one. And this is pretty nice that we have. Let me go ahead and shrink this up. And once we have this generate tags, these are all regular work that we do, parse these events and take all of this data. So as you can see, we are not doing much of the heavy lifting. Now, all of the data that comes up needs to go in our database as well. And that's what this is. This is all the batch insert of all the junction tables, records, and all of that. Again, this is all the drizzle part. We don't have to worry about it as an ingest part. But it doesn't really matter how complex your logic for your application is, which surely is going to be decently complex. You can just go ahead and work with that. So what we have seen in this case is a classic example and a use case of AI inferencing. And again, Even if tomorrow the model comes up or some new models and stuff comes up, I don't have to do much. I can just still call the model with the different model name. I can store that in the constant file as well. Now here comes an interesting question which usually people ask is, why can't I just directly call the AI? Now, surely you can call the AI. This is just exactly the moment. If you happen to ever use the 10 stack query, you can directly make the queries. But by using the 10 stack query, what you do is you get the stuff like there's an error, there's a loading state, there's a data, there's retries, and all these mechanism that comes with the React query. And that's why it is one of the standard these days of making the web request. Can I make the web request directly with the fetch or Axios? Surely you can. But having the 10 stack query makes life easy. The same happens here as well. Surely I can make the AI call directly as well, but this eventually in the production makes my life a lot easier. And that is the whole main point. If you just ask me what's the meat of this entire application, this just one file. This one file makes this application as AI friendly, and we are able to generate the AI data not instantaneously, but whenever the AI gives me the result. And based on the event, whenever the data comes up, I can just add this to my database and change the states on that. And that is it. Now, rest of the stuff like send the answer notification, these are just emails. This doesn't excite me much because these are just emails. Surely, email is absolutely complex. I'm not disregarding that. But these are comparatively easier. And as you can see, the code file is also just barely less than 100 lines. Answer accept notification. This is again just an email. We're just trying to utilize Ingest as much as possible for these production grade application. But if you just ask me if you understand this just one file, that is it. And especially not just the whole file, if you understand these, this one part and this another part, that is it. You can make insane level of applications with this. All right, so this is all good. Now coming back onto the application. So now that you understand the application, let me just give you a quick tour of the application so that in case you want to work with this application, you are fully aware of what's going on. So in any of the Next.js application, the API is usually the backend. In fact, almost all the time. This is where you keep all of the things that should happen on the server itself and not on the front end. So let's first continue and have a discussion on the backend part itself, because that's what I usually like to do. We do have more actions and stuff. These are just helpers which are helping to execute some of the tasks, but let's go in the backend first. So in this part, we have all done, but this is where you define your endpoints. And the most important part is auth endpoint. We're using better auth in this case, and the better auth has actually Next.js handler, which automatically gives me all the logins from emails, from Google, and all these. I just have to add the configuration for that. That's the first part. Then on the other hand, we have this users as well, which has all the user routes. So get user profile. We don't have much in the data of the profile, but whatever we have, we can just go ahead and make the DB query to find the first user and just send that as a response. That's all what we are doing in these files, user related stuff. Then we have this upload as well, where we have the pre-signed URL and the image URL. We are storing all the images in the AWS. And one of the good exercise that you can do is try to have multiple scenarios here. Maybe your AWS is down and you got a ticket to change this on to ImageKit or any other service provider. Try to write these methods. This will give you a realistic idea of how to work in the production grade code based applications. We have the search. Whenever user enter anything and hits the search route, this is for that. This is the question where you can get an individual question or user can submit the new question as well. And then we have the answers where user can submit the answer or the answer can be AI generated as well. Ingest handles the AI part, but that's the whole endpoints. I got a really bad throat. Looks like that. Anyways, so as you can see now with the walkthrough, you can see there's not much complexity in the application. We have authentication, and then user can search a question, ask a question, and user can answer a question. It is a very standard CRUD operation. What additional we have are the RTEs as well as real-time editors. And that's the front end part. Now, if you look at this, one thing that can catch you a little bit off in the off guard here, if I just go ahead and work with that, let me go ahead and close the app, is if you open the library, you will again see the APIs. These are the front-end APIs. What do I mean by front-end APIs? These are API calls that you have. So these are all the data that we have, all the answer keys. And if you look at closely here and go a little bit, what we are doing in this is just making the API calls from the front end. These are that API. The server APIs always lives in the app folder itself. And then we have the auth, DB, the mutation, the queries, the services. These are all front-end related part. And again, this requires more of the knowledge of a bit on the drizzle side, bit on the database side, a bit on authentication as well. But overall, it's not really the most complex application that you're going to build. But if you can understand this application, you will be completely ready to contribute in a lot of open source code bases. And this is your sign of moving from a fresh level developer to a mid-size or an experienced developer. And again, I truly enjoyed this is one of its kind of tutorial that we have built up here. Now, usually such tutorials are just writing the each line of code and writing so many Tailwind files. But I realized that those tutorials are for fresher friendly. I wanted to create a tutorial which is mid-size engineer, mid-level engineers to the high-end engineers so that they can also start working with that. And by the way, yes, I'll be giving the whole code base and whole code files as well so that you can start working with that. I would highly, highly encourage you to share this video with your colleagues in your corporate environment, mostly maybe some college student as well, but I hardly doubt that. But yes, this was a really fun activity. I hope after watching this entire long video, you have complete control and complete knowledge about the ingest, how to use that, and one production grade project as well, where the use case is being implemented along with the AI calls as well. That is it for this video. Pretty fun journey to have you a walkthrough on this. Felt really good to have this kind of senior level tutorial as well. That is it for this one. Let's catch up in the next one.